Percy Smith. With everything we know about him now, can you tell us your opinions on Grizzly Smith as a worker, backstage road agent, and his private life?
Grizzly Smith, I saw him actually when I was a kid, when I was growing up, and he was a member of the Kentuckians. It was just two big guys. It was Jake Smith, and I forgot who the other guy was. And they were just like mountain guys who found a wrestling ring, and they would go in there, and they were big guys. Grizzly Smith was about 6'9", maybe a little taller, but I guess in that world he was kind of like a giant, but he wore big overalls. So you knew his wrestling ability inside the ring didn't have to be great, and it was never great. All they would do is push and tug and throw punches and kicks. That's all they would do. And they had a long run with a team called later they were called the Assassins. I forgot what their names were then, but it was the same deal. It was a masked team, and it was Tom Ernesto and Jody Hamilton, and they had a long run in mid Atlantic with that team. Now we're bringing up his ability to work on a scale of 1 to 10 was about a 4, because he didn't have to work. That wasn't his gimmick. Now, if he was a 10, he'd be a totally different gimmick. But to cover all that up, that's why they made him look like we call it a mountain hooger. I think that's what we call him. Or I did. Now, as far as his personal life, I think Jake had a lot of demons. He had a lot. So if you read the history of the family, and Jake the Snake has even put this out, and the daughter has put this out, that he molested the daughter, and he liked young girls, really young girls. And so you can't speak highly of a man who does things like that, but yet he claimed to be a Christian. I've seen him carrying the Bible around. So go figure. So he never did anything bad to me. I just heard stories. Basically, I kept my distance from him. And he was the agent when I was in Mid-South, because he was an old friend of Bill Watts. And if you ask the question, did Bill Watts know what he was doing? I have no idea. But I think if he did, I think Bill would have gotten rid of him. I didn't think he would want to be involved with somebody like that. I think the young girl had a child by Grizzly, or so I've read. I may be wrong, but there was a lot of talk about Grizzly. Not so much then, but I learned all this later. So.
Well, actually, two more things I was just going to pick up on. So, rumors at the time, there weren't really many rumors flying around about Grizzly at the time.
No, they were rumors, but again, I go back to my stay in my lane. I didn't investigate it, and nobody I knew was involved in it. So that was my slant on it.
And very similarly, because you mentioned he was a WCW agent, what did agents do in WCW at the time? Did they do the same things as in the WWF, or did they do completely different things?
Same thing. See, I had him in Mid-South too. He was the agent. He would go to the town. And what he was the promotions guy in the town. So he would go, whatever the house was, he would pick the money up. I don't think they got to the point they were just writing checks then. A lot of times they would just They would just write a check and deposit the money. I think he actually brought money back from the towns, and he would run the show, and he would make a report how the matches were or what happened or anything Bill Watts needed to know. He would fill him in. Same way with WCW, except he wasn't taking money. They would take the money that came into the box office and they would deposit it in the building's account. Say it's a civic center. The money would go into the civic center's account. Then they would write a check, or I don't know if they did electronic banking back then or not, or they would write a check and Grizzly would bring the check in. And of course, with the number of tickets sold and all this, and they would check that. That's what he did then. Plus, he gave the finishes out, and the same thing in Mid-South. He would say who had a good match, who didn't have, who was late, who almost got in a fight, any problems, and he'd bring all that back.